Welcome to Passion for Sound, the channel dedicated to thorough and honest reviews of headphones, earphones, DACs, headphone amps, other components and accessories. Basically everything audio related except power amps and passive speakers. My name's Lachlan and my goal is to explore and discuss all kinds of audio topics, even the controversial ones, to help us all find more enjoyment from music. Thanks for watching and enjoy the video. A little while ago I reviewed a product called the Olufsen D30. It's a DAC and amp all in one, it's a desktop system, and it kind of stole my heart. I didn't have a lot of explanation for why it stole my heart, but I just really enjoyed using it. It had flaws, it wasn't the best product around, so it was just one of those things that I connected with it in a way that doesn't always happen with electronic gear. In the case of the Q1 from Shanling here, the same is very, very true. The good news is this time it's got the chops for my head to justify the purchase just as much as my heart. So for this review, I want to explain three things. Firstly, why this is not just a style over substance type DAP. You know, it's pretty, it's cute, but it's more than its looks. I also want to tell you about the power it's got and whether it can drive the headphones that you might want with it. And finally, I want to talk about whether it's worth buying a DAP like this rather than having a dongle like, say, an EarMen Eagle that you can connect to the smartphone you probably already have in your pocket. And so to do all that, let's start by talking about the design and the features and functions of the Q1. Before I continue, I just want to say a huge thanks to Melbourne Chi-Fi Audio for lending me the Q1 to make this review possible. They sent over a bunch of Shanling products, including the Q1, the UP4 that I talked about recently in the BTR5 review, and also the AE3 IEMs. Obviously today's the review for the Q1, but do stay tuned and make sure you're subscribed for the dedicated review of the UP4 and the review of the AE3 IEMs coming soon. For now though, let's get back to the Q1. The Q1 retails for $120 US or about 230 Australian dollars, so it's very affordable in the world of digital audio players, and its price also puts it in the mid-range for a lot of the USB dongle DACs on the market. That immediately begs the question of whether there's any benefit carrying something like this when you could have a tiny little dongle that connects to the smartphone that you're already going to be carrying. So to answer that, there's a few things we need to think about, and one of them is what are the features and functions that the Q1 has to offer. If I slip it out of its little red silicone case, you'll see here it's got a beautiful shiny red back design and a glass front screen. There's also a volume knob on the side that's got a sort of chrome finish, but I do believe it might actually be a plastic plug, it's hard to tell, with a red accent on the side. The Q1 is available in a range of colours and they all feature a similar approach with the bright, colourful back, the black front and the accent on the volume control. They also come with a matching silicone case as I understand it, so the colour of the case will match the colour of the device. Other than the volume control, what you've also got on the Q1 are the playback controls down the side, so you've got forwards, backwards, pause and play, and on the bottom you've got a USB-C socket, I'll talk more about that shortly. You've got a headphone jack for 3.5mm output and a micro SD card slot. So the Q1 has all the things on the outside that you'd expect. But what makes this exceptional is what it's able to do with those inputs and outputs and controls we just mentioned, as well as some things that are not obvious from the outside. Most importantly, its Bluetooth capabilities. So let's talk a bit now about the input and output abilities of the Q1. So it's obviously got normal playback functionality all the way up into DSD, high sample rate PCM, you name it, this will play it back. So there's no problems there. What's more, it also allows digital audio to come out through the USB-C socket, meaning you can use this as a transport to feed an external DAC if you wish. That potentially makes a case for having this available for your commute to and from the office, for instance, and then being able to plug it into a desktop solution once you're in the office for even better sound. In addition to that though, the Bluetooth, as I've already alluded to, is where things really take off. The Bluetooth from the Q1 is both receiver and transmitter. So you could use this on your commute, as I've already mentioned, you could use this with your Bluetooth headphones if you like, but at the same time, you could also use this streaming from your phone as your source Bluetooth into the Q1, using the Q1 essentially as a Bluetooth DAC and headphone amp to then feed, say, your IEMs connected to it. So it's an incredibly versatile device with so many different inputs and outputs. In fact, I think the only feature that I found missing from the Q1 is that it won't act as a DAC for a USB input. So in other words, you couldn't take this into the office, plug it into your phone or your laptop and use this to decode the audio. The only way it decodes is via the Bluetooth receiver function. However, at the price of $120, it's absolutely insane that this can do what it does. Coming back around briefly to the design, I should mention that it's a zinc body, so the whole thing feels solid. It's not plastic like it may appear in the video. It's a really solid, weighty but not heavy feeling device. The glass front is really good quality glass by the look and feel of it, and the back, as I said, is a beautifully finished zinc casing. So everything about this just is absolutely so much better than it should be for the $120 price tag, assuming it sounds good, and we'll get to that in a minute. A couple of final specs before we do. The Q1 is rated for about 21 hours of battery life. I haven't had a chance to use it consistently for long enough to prove if that's possible. What I can tell you is it's run heaps and heaps of testing for me without me needing to charge it. So there's no problems with extended battery life. I just can't confirm if it will actually do the full 21 hours. Either way, it's going to get you to and from work, no problems at all, and then you could always plug it in overnight. But I'm guessing you'd get actually a few trips, maybe a whole week's worth of trips to and from work, if that's how you're using it. Another specification to mention is that the micro USB slot is rated for up to 2 terabytes of storage, so you're never going to run out of space, I would imagine, for your music library on your micro SD card. By the time you get to up to 2 terabytes of music, I'd have to be questioning your ability to choose what you want to listen to each day. So I think there's plenty there for that. I normally use 256 gigabytes, and it's plenty for me, which is not to say you shouldn't use more, but the point is 2 terabytes is way more than you're likely to need, even if you've got DSD files on there. Speaking of DSD, I did mention before that this will play that back, and that's because it uses the ESS 9218P chip. So that will do everything up to DSD 128 and high sample rate PCM such as DXD that I've already mentioned. So on paper, everything's going extremely well. Let's talk a bit about power. One of my questions at the beginning was, does this have enough power for headphones of all different sorts? And the answer is, for the most part, yes it does. Shanling rate this as having 80 milliwatts into 32 ohms, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in my testing, it was plenty loud enough with pretty much every headphone in my collection. And I will talk about some specifics there shortly to give you some clarity. My one drawback in this area is I wish Shanling had provided more data on the power. Telling us that it's got 80 milliwatts at 32 ohms doesn't tell us how much current or how much voltage is available, so it's hard to know how it's going to perform with low sensitivity planers or high voltage dynamic drivers. As I've already mentioned, I'll share some specifics with you shortly to give you an indication, but it would have been nice if Shanling provided a bit more of a range of measurements at say 32 ohms as they have provided, and then maybe some 50, 150 and 300 ohm measurements would have been really helpful. What Shanling have done is said in the specs that the Q1 is rated for devices from 8 through to 300 ohms. So in theory, it should have enough voltage for high impedance output, but the question is, does it have enough current output for the low sensitivity and low impedance planers? To put this to the test, I ran a whole bunch of headphones and earphones on the Q1 to see how it fared across the board, and I'll step through some of those results now for you. With headphones like the 300 ohm ZMF Atticus and HD800S, the Q1 had no problems at all, playing in the low 70s out of 100 on high gain. So there was still a good 20 to 30% headroom available, and to me that's plenty for a device like this. It's obviously not going to compete with a full desktop system, but it was definitely enough for me considering it's a portable device. Sound quality, as I'll get to soon, was good across the board. So in all cases with these tests, when I'm sharing the volume numbers I was working with, it meant it was getting loud enough for normal listening levels, as well as maintaining good sound quality. The flagship Focal Utopia and Meza Empyrean headphones both fared very, very comfortably because they're mid-impedance, relatively sensitive headphones. They were sitting at about 68 on the volume out of 100 using high gain. And then where things started to get a little bit stretched was trying the HiFi and Sandara planers and also the Beyerdynamic DT880 250 ohms. On the Sandaras, I had to get up to 78 out of 100 on the volume control, and in the DT880s, I got all the way up to about 83. So there's still some headroom there, but that's with no EQ applied and with music that was recorded with fairly normal dynamic range, so pop, rock, blues and the like. I can see the Q1 running out of puff if you're wanting to use EQ significantly and or if you've got music with a very high dynamic range and you're having to turn it up for the quieter passages. That said, it is only going to run out of puff on the more difficult headphones. Given the size of this device and its design as being for a portable usage at a relatively low price point, it's probably not something I expect people should be using or will be using with really high-end, difficult to drive headphones. With portable options like your Mesa Neos, your Sennheiser Momentums, anything that's in that mid-range band that's likely to be used with the Q1, I don't see it having any major issues. And of course with IEMs, it's an absolute breeze. There's no hiss, there's no background noise, and you've got plenty of volume because of the gain options. You've got low and high gain, and also a 100-step volume control. So usability with all different headphones and earphones is very, very good, except, as I've said, for those really, really difficult to drive ones. In terms of software features, the interface from the Q1 is really nice and simple. I did find the interface a little bit clumsy at times, remembering which way to swipe to bring up different menus. Basically what it is you swipe from left to right to access the different menu options on the phone, so settings, folder access, playlist access, what they call playback, which is where you can choose things like your EQ and your playback modes. So all of that is accessed with a swipe from left to right. And other than that, you've got the on-screen album art, and also with the tap you can reveal the playback controls with your normal play, pause, repeat, shuffle, etc. The touchscreen is not the most responsive that I've used, but it's not dreadful, and it's kind of what I expect for a relatively affordable portable device like this. If I had to nitpick, I'd say that's probably the one downfall of the Q1, is some of the navigation was a bit clumsy at times, but once it's playing and you've got access to the play, pause and forward and back buttons, there's really everything you need taken care of. So the playback listening experience is fine once you get going. It's more the setup that's a little bit clumsy at times. Speaking of the software and the setup, a couple of things I should mention. The Q1 has features like replay gain, it's got gapless playback, it's got an EQ, as I already mentioned, built in there. So it's got lots of different features. It's got balance control as well, which I know is important to some viewers. So it's got all of the features you expect from a high-end DAP, but built in to a tiny little device like this. So basically at this point, putting aside sound quality for just a second longer, this has everything you could possibly want in a DAP, assuming it sounds good. And the good news is it sounds fantastic. It's got quite a rich, warm sound, but in no way is it lacking in detail and spatial information. It's not congested or muddy or thick, but it's very rich and enjoyable to listen to. It actually reminds me of discrete designed amps like, say, the Schiit Asgard 3, much more than a chip-based design, which is no doubt what's going on in here. Some people talk about Saber DACs having a glare or an edge to them, but realistically, it does always come down to the implementation, and the implementation here is fantastic. The detail is there, the resolution is there, but the sound is thoroughly enjoyable and very smooth and very listenable throughout. As a bit of a test to see just how good this was, and to answer one of my questions, which is it better just to grab yourself a dongle and be done with it using your phone, I compared this using the EarMen Eagle. Now, I reviewed the EarMen Eagle here recently. It's priced very similar to the Q1, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So connecting it up, what I was able to do was listen to the sound direct from the Q1's headphone jack and then plug the Eagle in to the Q1, so we're still using all of the same transport circuitry that's inside the Q1 to then drive the Eagle. And what I found was the Q1 was hands down the better listen. It was smoother, it was more open, it was just more enjoyable. In fact, it made the Eagle sound a bit forced in comparison. Interestingly, both of them are using Saber DACs. The Eagle's using the 9218 regular version, whereas the Q1 here uses the 9218P. To me, there was no question that the Q1 was better, and unless you really don't want to carry an extra device, even one as small as this, I think I would choose it over the Eagle. I actually quite like using a separate DAP if I'm commuting, which with COVID in the world I haven't done for a long time, but when I was commuting, I used to much prefer a separate DAP because it meant I could have that sitting in my pocket doing what it was doing and then use my phone to read articles, read a book, surf the internet, etc. without having extra devices and cables hanging out of my phone. I like the convenience of then being able to just slip my phone into my pocket, knowing that my DAP is already in my pocket, connected to my earphones, which are already in my ears. I just find it makes it easier when phones are used for so much now, whether it's signing in and out of train stations, paying for things, looking stuff up. I find my phone is constantly in and out of my pocket. I'd prefer not to have a cable attached to it if I can get better sound quality for the same price by having a device like this compared to something just a little bit smaller in the Eagle. Now, I didn't go as far as comparing the EarMen Sparrow, so I know some of you might want to know that comparison, but the reason I didn't is that the Sparrow is more expensive and it's also far better as a balanced only device. Because the Q1 is single-ended, what I'd say is immediately, if you're looking for balanced drive, you probably just should go straight for the Sparrow. But if single-ended is something you're looking at, you're actually better off with the Q1 because the Eagle was better than the Sparrow in single-ended mode and the Q1 is better than the Eagle. So just to recap, the Sparrow is great in balanced, but the Eagle is better in single-ended. But then this is better than the Eagle, so this wins out of all three for single-ended playback. So hopefully by now you've come to the same conclusion about the Q1 that I did, and that is it is an absolutely brilliant device. If you're in the market for DAP, it's a really hard argument to suggest that anyone should spend much more than the $120 on anything bigger, bulkier, and fancier than this. There's no doubt that spending a fortune on, say, an Astel & Kern DAP, of which I have one here, there's no doubt that's going to net you better sound quality, but it's going to be bigger, it's not going to look as cute and interesting as this one, and to me, I just find this such a compelling package for the price, the look, the feel, everything about it. I love it much more than I've ever loved any of my A&K devices. The A&K pipped them a little bit on sound quality, but I just have to question whether it's worth spending nearly 10 times as much, and in fact sometimes it is 10 times as much, to get not that much more sound performance. Yes, they're better, I'm not questioning that they're better, but once again the law of diminishing returns in this hobby, for a portable device that you might be listening to when you're out and about with background noise, I have to question the value. So to answer my questions from the beginning, yes, the Q1 does have enough power for most headphones you're likely to use in a portable setting. It also sounds better than an equivalent dongle in something like the EarMen Eagle or even the Dragonfly Red from AudioQuest. And so ultimately that answers the third question, which is about whether this is more style than substance. Absolutely not. It happens to be an amazing quality device with all the features and functions you could want, and it happens to look and feel fantastic as well. Now, if you don't like the red, that's fine. As I've already mentioned, there's different colors available, but I do believe this is a device that anybody looking for a DAP in 2021 and onwards should be considering. If you're in Australia, please consider buying through Melbourne Hi-Fi Audio as a way of saying thanks for making this review possible. I'm getting no affiliate kickbacks for that. It's just a way of saying thanks for them lending me the gear. If you're in other parts of the world, I'll put a link down below where you can buy the Q1 elsewhere. For now though, happy listening, and I'll see you here next time on Passion for Sound.